You know we need to do this quickly so I can return home to my husband. He's beginning to get suspicious of me, and I can't afford to give him more reasons to doubt me," Adaobi said to the man inside the dimly lit hut, who in return gave her a knowing smile. Once upon a time, in the beautiful kingdom of Aladinma, lived a prosperous farmer named Ejike. He was known for his large barns, big ponds, and yellow peppers, which were among the most sought-after food items. Ejike came from a poor home but was determined to create wealth for himself and his family. Every young maiden desired a man like him, as he was considered a rare find due to his handsome looks, hard work, strategic mind, and intelligence. Despite being ready to settle down, Ejike was hesitant, fearing he might choose the wrong woman as a wife. This hesitation delayed his marriage for a long time, leading to widespread concern among the villagers. Some speculated that he might be impotent. For what other reason could there be for a man with all his qualities to remain unmarried? All of these changed the day Ejike set eyes on Adaobi, the beautiful daughter of Mazi Okoro. He was immediately smitten by her beauty, charisma, and elegance. Wasting no time, he approached her. "Hello, beautiful one. I couldn't help but notice your lovely face. What's your name?" he asked with a smile on his face. "Don't flatter me. My name is Adaobi," she replied, smiling. "Adaobi," Ejike repeated dreamily. "That means daughter of a king. Soon you will be called Nwunye Obi, meaning the wife of a king," he said as they both laughed. "By the way, my name is Ejike," he added. "Ejike, the wealthy farmer?" she asked, and he nodded. "Wow, it's nice to finally meet you. You are just as people described you," she said. And they exchanged smiles, allowing their gaze to communicate. This marked the beginning of Ejike and Adaobi's love story. Within days, they were inseparable. Ejike was either at Adaobi's place or she at his. Ejike had never felt so alive and connected to anyone before. And so, he told his parents about her, and they immediately agreed, since it was the first time he had come to them about a woman that he loves. 3 months later, Ejike went to Mazi Okoro's house with his kinsmen to ask for her hand in marriage, not wanting to waste any more time. Adaobi, her father, called. When she came out, she saw Ejike seated with a contagious smile on his face. "Adaobi, my daughter, this young man is here to ask for your hand in marriage. Do you accept his proposal, and can we drink from the palm wine that he has brought?" her father asked her. She nodded shyly. "Yes, Papa, I accept." Everyone clapped as they rejoiced, and Ejike paid her bride price. "Oyanu," the king's men said as they poured the palm wine into a cup and told her to drink and give it to her husband, which she did. They were then proclaimed husband and wife. Ejike was over the moon. He took his wife home and they had a pleasurable night together. Adaobi was the perfect wife until Uzo showed up. She was walking on the path to the market one evening when someone grabbed her from behind. She shouted and held her chest, but when she turned, a look of shock crossed her face. "Uzo, what are you doing here?" she asked. "What do you mean? I came back for you," he said. "No, you did not. You told me that you were not ready for marriage, at least for the next 5 years. In 5 years' time, I will be 30. Who will marry me by then?" she shouted. "Don't be like that. I wanted you to give me more time so I could put myself together, but you were so bent on getting married. Can you hear yourself? You left me for the past 1 year without a word, and suddenly you are back for me? What do you take me for? A bag of rice?" she asked, annoyed. "By the way, I am married now. Ejike is 10 times better than the man you will ever be. But, she stuttered. "Married? That must be a joke," he said, with venom in his voice. "And what do you mean by but? Never mind, just leave me alone and stay off my path," she said as she turned and walked away. "She must be joking. Adobe loves me enough not to marry anyone within a year," he mumbled. Since that encounter, Adobe could not get Uzo out of her mind. She was indeed bothered by it. She often found herself thinking about him every time, so much so that even her husband noticed her change in mood and asked her about it. But she waved it off, saying she was just thinking about something that her best friend had shared with her. When she could no longer bear the thoughts running through her mind, she found herself walking towards Uzo's hut. When he saw her, he stood up and turned his back against her. Earlier, he had asked people around the village who had confirmed that she was indeed married. "What are you doing here?" he asked. "I have come to see you. I want us to talk," she said. "We have nothing to talk about. You have made your choice by leaving me for a wealthy man. Go and enjoy your marriage," he said with a gruff voice. "I am sorry, Uzo. I really loved you, but you were not ready, and my parents had been telling me to accept any of the suitors coming my way, or they would marry me off to any man they desired. And so Ejike came, and he was rich and nice, so I accepted," she said sadly. "Loved, you say? I know you still love me, Adobe. You will never stop loving me. I know that," he said. "How sure are you about that?" she asked him. "I have never been so sure of anything in my life. If you do not love me, there is no way you will be here trying to talk to me," he replied as he dipped his head and kissed her on the lips. He caressed her lips with his while she remained frozen on the spot. She wasn't expecting him to take such action. After a few seconds, she returned his kisses with the same passion that he gave. And as quickly as they started, Adobe pushed him and ran towards her husband's hut. Her heart was beating fast, and her chest was filled with guilt. She had used her heart, not her brain. As she walked home in shame for allowing herself to fall into Uzo's arms, she began to feel nauseous. "Maybe it's the feeling of guilt that is making me feel this way," she thought. But as the days went by, the feeling persisted. She told her husband, who told her to go to the village healer. When the village healer, Ozioma, finished with Adobe, she congratulated her on her new pregnancy. "Chimo, Ejike will be so happy to hear this news. I can't wait to tell him," she said happily. On getting home, she broke the news, and to say he was happy was an understatement. He was beyond the moon. "So I will soon be a father," he said with thick emotion in his voice. Adobe looked at him with admiration in her eyes. He was the perfect man for any woman, and he was almost flawless. I bet he would be an amazing father, she thought. In the coming days, Ejike treated Adobe as though she was a fragile object. He was there to take care of her. If she was doing something that he could not do, he would be there to support her all the way. Adobe had a soft spot for him, But would she call it love? That was what confused her the most. But she was happy, at least she was being cared for. She was provided with anything and everything she wanted. But why does she not feel that way? Adaobi might not be considered a loose woman, but she was not innocent in many ways. Before she had gotten married to Ejike, she had a few boyfriends, but their relationship did not last and also did not end on a good note. That was until Uzo. Adaobi thought he was the last bus stop. He had everything she wanted, but he was not ready for marriage, and oftentimes she wondered why. The only thing that bothered Adaobi about Ejike was his small manhood. At the beginning of their marriage, she tried to enjoy lovemaking, but to her, it was not the same as what she had with Uzo, and she never once related her sexual dissatisfaction with Ejike. She sometimes wished things were different, and maybe she could keep both men to herself. But shame to her, she was living a dream that was realistic to some women, but wrong in the true sense. Whenever she made love with Ejike, she often found herself fantasizing that it was Uzo, even though she knew it was wrong in every way possible. Why did you have to come back, Uzo? It would have been easy for me to forget you, she lamented deeply. And the love Ejike showed her didn't help with the feeling of guilt that buried deep within her heart. It actually made it worse. She felt like she was cheating, which was exactly what she was doing, even though there was little to no physical contact between her and Uzo since after her marriage. My wife is suddenly acting strange, and she will not tell me what the problem is. I feel there is something that she is not telling me. Or is she worried about childbirth? Ejike thought to himself. He wanted her to be comfortable with him to the point where they could share their deepest secrets together. Soon, it was time for her delivery, and she gave birth to a very handsome boy who they named Afamefuna. Within that time, her mother came to do omugo for her, and as usual, she returned after 3 months, but still came from time to time. With the arrival of their new child, Adaobi had little or no time to think about Uzo. Her days were occupied with fending for her child and husband and also taking care of herself. As the boy grew, Adaobi soon started going out, and on few occasions she would bump into Uzo, who would look at her with lust in his eyes. Her breasts were now fuller than before, and her hips were rounder. She had added on the right places. He imagined if Adaobi was actually married to him, she would be carrying their child like that on her back. And for a second, he called himself stupid for letting her go. As there were many fishes in the sea, Uzo decided to pursue Adaobi, the one fish that was forbidden to him. He was determined to get her in some way. If he couldn't marry her, he would make sure to get her back in his arms. In the past, he had loved her truly, but he didn't want to be tied down by one woman just yet. So he told Adaobi that he was not ready for marriage. During his time away, he met another beautiful young maiden called Chidinma that happened to catch his attention. He courted her and promised her marriage while enjoying the benefits of marriage. Chidinma loved him so much that she was willing to leave her family to be with Ejike, even though they did not support her decision and love for Ejike. She even stole from them, and after months together, Chidinma became pregnant. and the money she had stolen from her parents were running short. Ejike actually planned to stay for a few weeks that eventually turned into months, and when he found out about the pregnancy, he told her to abort it, that he was not ready to be a father. Because of that, they would quarrel every day, and Ejike soon got bored of her and decided to return back to Aladimma, where he found out Adaobi had gotten married. Uzo monitored Ejike's movement and grabbed the slightest opportunity he had. In the front of the hut, Ejike sat down with his wife to discuss. "My wife, I really do not want to go on this trip and leave you alone with our son, but it is very important for my business. You know the new farmers organization I joined a few months ago? They are holding a meeting in the state central. There will be a new seed distribution, and as I heard, it is better than the ones we have here. They call it hybrid seed. And since I am the only one in this village that is a member of the organization, I will be the only one to get access to the seeds. And then we can make more money," he told his wife. "Wow, that's really nice, my husband. Don't worry, we will be fine. I have Mama and my sister to keep me company, and I am rooting for you. May our Chi bless and favor you," she replied with a smile. "Oh, my wife, my biggest supporter. You are the best thing to ever happen to me. Thank you so much for being the best wife ever," he shouted. They both laughed, but Adaobi's heart ached. A sharp feeling pierced through her, and she knew the feeling too well. As usual, she shoved it aside. "What do you want me to get you when I'm coming back?" Ejike asked her. "Just return home safely, and I have everything I want here. But if you insist, I would like some new beads," she smiled. "Okay, my darling, consider it done." Within a week, Ejike prepared and left for the state central. Adaobi felt strange and cold being in the hut by herself and her son. Ejike had never left the house for more than a few hours since they got married. Sometimes, Afam's grandmother or aunt would come and pick him up so they could spend some time with him and then return him in the evening. With cautious steps, Uzo made his way to Ejike's house, and when he looked around, there was no one in sight. He decided to check inside the house, and there lay Adaobi on the mat, sleeping with a slight parting on her lips, and her long, beautiful legs were exposed for his eyes to see. He licked his lips in a lustful manner and smiled. Uzo immediately got rid of his clothes and joined her on the mat. He held her waist while whispering sweet nothings into her ears. Adaobi moaned in pleasure, but soon opened her eyes and saw Uzo in her hut, and his hands were wrapped tightly around her waist. "What are you doing here?" she asked as she tried to push him away. "I have come to take what is mine," he replied with a low, seductive voice as he held her tighter. "You should have knocked or wait outside. While coming to my hut, someone might see and misunderstand. And what do you mean what is yours? I do not have anything that belongs to you," she said, freaking out. "Shh," he shushed her. "No one would see anything. I made sure of that. And for your information, you belong to me. You are mine, as you have always been," he replied, looking at her with the usual look of lust in his eyes, while licking his lips and his eyes staring deep into her soul. "I am not yours," she said with a raised voice as she tried to push him once more, but he was too strong for her. He remained silent with a smirk on his face, and almost immediately he started to trail kisses down her neck and chest and soon started kissing her full on the lips. Adobe tried to resist, but she didn't for long. She melted into his arms, and soon their clothes were gone, and Uzo had his way with her. When Adobe came down from her high, her chest felt tight as guilt washed over her, and she was clothed in shame. "What have I done?" she whispered. "What are you saying? We gave each other what we have always wanted. We gave in to our desires. My love, you have really changed, Adobe. You usually ask for more, but now you are feeling ashamed," Uzo asked her. "Yes, because I am a married woman who had just cheated on her wonderful husband," she said as she began to cry. "You mean you prefer that man to me? You are hurting my feelings," Uzo said. "Exactly. I told you before that he is the man that you will never be. Leave my heart and never come back," she screamed. "I want you, and I know you want me too. I felt it, the way you reacted to my touch." Ejike replied. "Leave!" she shouted again, and this time he left. Adobe felt like she was consumed in darkness and misery. She allowed herself to be weak for him again. He was no good for her, but she still fell for his charms and sweet words. What man will be bold enough to sleep with a married woman in her husband's hut? She asked herself. She didn't know what she would do to shake off the constant feeling of guilt and tears. She just sat in her hut and cried. When she felt better, she sent someone to tell her mother that she should keep her farm for the night, that she was feeling sick and maybe she needed to rest. She went and took a bath. As she scrubbed her body, maybe she would get over the feeling, but it still lingered. She warmed the leftover food, ate, and was ready to go back to sleep when her sister Ebube came to check up on her. "Sister, Mama told me that you were not feeling well. How are you feeling now?" she asked. "I am feeling a bit better," she said as she thanked her sister for coming to check up on her. They talked for a while, and soon their conversation got deep. "There's something I would like to ask you, Ebube, and I want you to give me your humble opinion," Adobe said, while her sister nodded. "Is it okay for a married woman to have an affair outside her marriage if she's not feeling fulfilled as a married woman? I mean, a woman with a good man, but she's still in love with her ex and wishes she could have him back because he is the one she loves," she asked. Sister, I hope you're not asking for yourself," Ebube said. "No, I'm asking for a friend of mine. I just want your opinion." "Okay, if you say so. As we all know, it is wrong for a married woman to have an affair outside marriage. If she's having any problems with her marriage, she should communicate with her husband. And as you said, he's a good man. He will find ways to make her happy and fulfilled. Harboring feelings from your past relationship will only do you more harm than good. It will make you question and compare everything. And she should kill every feeling she had for her ex because it will make her do the unthinkable. That's why I want to keep myself for my husband, so I will not have such problem in the future," she answered. "Except my husband joined his ancestors and I still feel the need to marry. Only then can I enter another relationship when I am healed and gone past my grief." The answer made Ada feel worse than before, but she was able to mask her emotion well, not wanting her sister to see that she was asking for herself. What if she had had sex with this ex in question, she asked again, as her sister looked at her with a weird expression. Sister, this one is bigger than me. but I will advise her to tell her husband. Maybe he will forgive her. And she should make sure it doesn't happen again, she said. When Ebube left, Adaobi was consumed in deep thought. I could never tell him that I slept with my ex. It will break him and I might end up losing my marriage. But I must try so this doesn't happen again, she thought before she slept. A few hours past midnight, Uzo came back and held onto her on the mat. Adaobi thought she was dreaming, but it was real. I thought I told you to leave and never come back. Why are you here? Is it to make me feel worse than I already felt? She asked weakly. Actually, I am here to make you feel better. And with this, he laid with her again. And they did it throughout the night as Adaobi succumbed to the pleasure that he gave. The wall she had tried to build to keep Uzo out had crumbled again. When it was almost morning, they stopped, and Adaobi's head was on Uzo's chest. There is nothing wrong in receiving pleasure. It's just a normal give and take, Uzo said. This is cheating. In as much as we enjoyed it, it is cheating. Don't tell me otherwise. I'm not a child, Adaobi said. If I was your wife, what would you do if another man had this way with me, just like you did? She asked. No man would dare. I will kill any man who would dare lay his hands on you, he fled. So if Uzo was to kill you now, will that be justified? She asked. See, Adaobi, you have always been mine to begin with. That you are married to him didn't stop you from being mine, he said. This should not repeat itself again, she said, but before she could complete her sentence, they were at it again. When they finished, Adaobi said to him, Do you want me to leave Ejike and be with you? Will you marry me if I leave him? Because I will do it. What? No, this works well for me. I don't want her to depend on me, but I want her in my arms, he thought. No, Adaobi, you don't need to do it. We will just continue this way by giving each other what we want, he said as he kissed her on the lips. Soon, a knock was heard on the door. Adaobi and Uzo's face held that of shock. Who could that be? They both wondered. When Adaobi didn't respond, the knock persisted. Stay tuned for part 2. Please don't forget to like, comment, and share. See you in our next one. Bye.